Hello again, it's me. And, for better or worse, I just wanted to talk about. Oh, hi, there you go. I just wanted to talk about 40k because there's been some interesting videos which I watched recently. And, I wanted to just chime in, I guess, and finally talk about that because it's been sorry, I'm smiling because I'm just trying like this new angle with the camera, which I hope you like. It's nice. It accentuates like my features, I guess. It doesn't really, but no, for real. I just moved it over there, so that's good, I guess. I can look at it while looking at what you're saying on chat, kinda. So that's a plus. And you can look at me. Hmm? All of this while I look at you. That's how looking works. So, 40k then. I'm not gonna leave the camera open, by the way. It's just like I'm trying to, get back on track with using it. So that's what I'm doing. So, right. The concept here is to tell you from my perspective, what I think about a certain video which um, mentions certain views on Warhammer. Um, I am, and I am not a fan at the same time, in the sense of I have zero fucking contact with the 40k community. I don't know anyone. I don't play the game. My only contact with it is through lore and audiobooks, and like a lot of lore, and way too many audiobooks. So my perspective is that, like, complete outsider, never will play it, never wanted to play it. I've played Dawn of War, fantastic game, obviously modded it, like played the fuck out of it, awesome. Same for the second one, I liked it a lot. Third one, didn't touch it. Haven't spaced any Marines, and I haven't spaced any Marines too. But I will when I get my new PC, if and when that is. But like that's where I'm coming from. Essentially, that's what I wanted to say. Um, there you have it. That's my perspective, and everything I will say will be from that point of view, and from that point of understanding. Because maybe I'm missing something or whatever. I don't know. But that's gonna be my perspective, right? That's where I'm gonna be, where I'm coming from as an outsider, essentially. Um, Not even a lot of my friends, or people I know, let's say, because friends is like such an underrated term, and overused. Um, Not a lot of them play or are into 40k. Neresis, I guess, and I do have like one or two other people I know who are into that, and everyone else is just not, just barely knows it. They all know that it's just like some kind of grimdark Monopoly game. So that's the whole story from my side, and we're gonna hear, you know, um, an interesting opinion. I've heard it because always before I watch something with you, I let you know if I've watched it before or not. Right? This one I have, and I just found it interesting enough that I want to talk about it, essentially. And so, but I'm not bored. Like, it's not boring to listen to it again because it's an interesting take, I suppose. And yeah, the camera is gonna go off for the duration, obviously, because like this is already. I guess it's I'm blowing raspberries here. Okay, just cut me some fucking slack. It's like that's my maximum exposure. Okay, that's how much of you I can handle. It's not about how much you can handle me. It's like the opposite. I don't know if you know that. Anyway, um, right. So, without further ado, let me just disable that like this. Pretty cool. And now you can't see shit, which is exactly what I want you to see. To be able to see. And this is going to be, that's the music I used. Alright, so you have that. Credited, credit where it's due and all that stuff. And now the problem with 40k by Adam something, fresh video. Yeah, and I'll be, as always, I'll check the sound first, see if it's like okay for you, and I'll be muting myself and then unmuting and pausing to just comment and go on, and that's how it's gonna go. Obviously, all the legal stuff, you know, no copyright intended, or you know, infringement, legal talks, words that mean things that, you know, indicate that I'm a good person and don't wanna like fuck over Adam something. And if this is not okay, like what I'm doing, then just let me know, I guess, and I'll comply to whatever YouTube or other rules, like, you know, apply here, as always. So with that said, yeah, it's just like it's my take on someone else's take, as always. All right, so small sound check. Let me see those fucking indicators pop. Let's see. Let's try.
Using hammers. Okay, not really. Warhammer 40k is a massive bomb.
Seems to be okay. I will increase it a little bit. Maybe here. Let me check.
Bombastic universe in the grimdark future.
So I think that's okay for you. I don't think it needs anything more. And with that, and no further ado, I'm going to just go into it, yeah? Let's fucking roll it back. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I don't know. I enjoyed watching it and I enjoyed discussing it with Neris. Also, you know, obviously it has to do with the whole controversy of 40k being fascist or not. Towards which I'm gonna say, just fucking let me elaborate on my opinions when I express them, okay? Don't be too harsh. And also don't be too harsh on the guy, or, well, on 40k, I guess. And, you know, I'll tell you why in a bit while we discuss this. Okay, let's go.
Warhammer is a universe where people fight wars using hammers. Okay, not really. Warhammer 40k is a massive, bombastic universe in the grimdark future of the 40th millennium where humanity is fighting wars on an epic scale on multiple fronts against all sorts of horrors. Space orcs, space elves, literal demons from hell, humans corrupted by...
So, the thing is, these are... Alright, so I will be inserting my opinions that are irrelevant to the major point, but I will be inserting them nevertheless. They're not from hell. There is no hell dimension. This is not Doom. It's the warp. And the warp is not hell. So these demons aren't demons in the biblical sense. Not at all. They are cosmic entities. They're not demons from hell any more than Cthulhu is. Cthulhu, or whatever you want to call it, okay? So first that, but let's go on.
Literal demons from hell, the Zerg, and also the...
I would accept a person saying the Tyranids in a Zerg video, you know, but I won't accept a person saying the Zerg in a Warhammer video. That's because, at least to my understanding, like, if you want to joke about it, that's fine, I guess, which is what the person is doing. But just for your information, it's the other way around. It's than the joke implies. 40k has been here longer. It's StarCraft that has been inspired by it, not the other way around. And yeah, just felt like I should say that. And please correct me if I'm wrong. But if you're gonna correct me, sources, please. You know, burden of proof lies with you, because, far as I remember, from reading stuff like that, it's the other way around. Anyway, that's what I read. I'm going by it until somebody provides any sources for the opposite. But I do remember vaguely that we looked into it at one point, or I looked into it at one point, and indeed it is like, yeah, Tyranids first, Zergs later. Let's go, right?
how Warhammer got its start as a tabletop game, and at the core it still is. Imagine chess but more complex, where two players bring out their hand-painted armies of miniatures and battle it out on a large board. It's a cool experience at game stores or game bars where you get to meet people, socialize, and show off your cool miniatures. Today, however, the Warhammer IP has already outgrown its tabletop niche and now includes ultra-popular AAA game titles such as the latest
Oof. You know, showing Dawn of War 3 and saying multiple AAA titles. Dawn of War 3 was a complete failure. Moving on.
Space Marine 2 with more than 2 million copies sold worldwide. But the Warhammer IP has not been without its controversies. We now have gamergators accusing the parent company Games Workshop of turning the game woke by introducing into it the most absurd creatures of all. Women. No, wait, it's actually even more ridiculous. Gamergators are mad that Games Workshop changed the lore of one of the factions that no one plays or cares about by saying that some of its
This man is cooking, and yeah. So, no, I actually do love the Custodes, and I always was intrigued by them, like by their lore and everything. Yeah, maybe nobody plays them, but I don't give a fuck about that though. I do like their idea, their concept. They are different enough from Space Marines. I do like them, honestly. And I like their counterparts, like the Sisters of Silence. They are so mysterious. I don't know. I would like more lore on them. I would like more stories with them and shit like that. But as for this controversy, dude, it's their IP. They can do whatever the fuck they want. First of all, so that's the cold bare truth of it. They can decide that all orcs are like scholars, and they can decide that like the Imperial Guard only consists of transgender men, and that's it. And they can do that, and yeah, that's their fucking right to do, you know. And you're gonna have to suck it up or just quit the hobby. And with these exaggerated examples, I'm just letting you know that like these are non-controversies. That the franchise is moving on with the times is always positive for the franchise. So yeah, the origin of such arbitrary rules, such as there can't be female like custodes or something, they are just done. They're fucking cooked, dude. Like, let go. Just let go. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Nobody's forcing you to play female in any game. You're just making this shit up because you need to be angry, and that's all. So, yeah, moving on, you know.
soldiers can be women. If you want to, I mean, it's you assembling the miniatures. You can decide what head you put on them. And this resulted in a global outrage among people who have never touched a Warhammer miniature, or a woman. That's it, Games Workshop. I could suspend my disbelief for space orcs, space elves, and hell in space run by space demons, but women? If women are real, how come I never touched one? On the other hand, opposite to the Gamergators, we have an increasing number of voices saying that Warhammer 40k is starting to become problematic by turning from a satire of fascism into a celebration of it, especially with the latest Space Marine 2 game.
Honestly, if you are seeing celebration of fascism in 40k, you are looking for it. You are literally looking for it. Dude, it's a space adventure. You need a reason to be fighting. All these factions need a reason to be killing each other constantly. Of course it's going to be grim, because war is grim. It's not a pleasant subject, but these guys, they need to keep fighting or the game is gonna be over. Okay? They need to keep fighting, I'm sorry. It's all practical reasons. There is no big like propaganda behind it or anything. Here's something that you may be not aware of. We are seeing and hearing of Warhammer through the eyes usually of a narrator who can be unreliable and also uninformed. Not only that, but also limited in scope, and further, more importantly actually, a human narrator, usually on the side of the Imperium. So we seldom, and that is the only finger I'm gonna point at Games Workshop and their, cadre of writers, that we never get enough perspective from others. warmongering humans is one faction, but then you have like all the other factions, and they are not like humans. So they're a bit underrepresented. There's not enough material, but when there is, it's really fucking good. I've enjoyed every single Dark Elder story I've ever read, to be honest. Especially one that was about romance. That was like pretty unexpected and nice. There is also stories from the Imperium side, which don't really focus on, the bad stuff, if you want to call it that. Like, for example, Eisenhorn and Kane are two perspectives where you're gonna be very hard pressed to find any shred of whatever you consider to be fascist propaganda. So yeah, I don't know. I think the problem comes from like the point of view, which makes humans overshadow the other races when in reality they are just as important to the lore, and without whom, Warhammer wouldn't be possible, to be honest. So yeah, what can I tell you? It's very weird that you would call Warhammer fascist. The thing is, certain elements of it, right, can invoke images of questionable nature. However, they're not more guilty of propagating fascism than, let's say, the subculture of like military goth. The imagery is there, kinda, but the people don't really, they're not really fascist secretly. Their fashion sense just incorporates certain elements. Now, of course, when we go into deeper waters, right? Yes, there is like this whole fucking zealotry and all that, but I wouldn't necessarily say that they're fascist. Yes, they are extremely. So the thing is, Space Marines, right? So the human empire, the Imperium, right? It's not comprised of Space Marines or Inquisitors. Those are, in the lore, to my knowledge, those are pretty rare. Like, you will probably, if you were living there, you would probably never see one. And depending how far from Earth you are, just to put it like roughly, depending how far you are, you might be on a planet where rules are pretty relaxed. You might be on a planet where, either backwater or luxury or whatever. Like, it's not. It's a very vast galaxy with like billions and billions and billions of individuals and planets. And honestly, it's literally no man's sky over there. Except turn to 11. So it's not like every planet is like Earth. Earth is fucked, for sure. But that's also because you need to portray humans as villains as well, right? They have to have a villainous element as well. The potential for corruption and like, misguided zeal and all that has to be there. The fact that it is there is doing the opposite of what people are alluding, that it idealizes fascism. No, it doesn't actually, because life on Terra isn't that pleasant because of those things. You're supposed to see that. Satire may be a bad word to use. I think that's where the misunderstanding comes from. I would say it's a cautionary tale more than it is satire. It's not parody. It does take itself seriously, but it's doing so and hoping, or at least I hope that they're hoping, that you will see this and you're gonna be like, well, you know what? These big guys with the big chain axes are pretty cool, and they yell pretty epic quotes and stuff. But I would rather stick to the epic quotes and swords rather than the other stuff, and it makes you kind of worry, of those dangers. In universe, it's explained away rather easily, but I know that that's not why we're here. But it's worth mentioning that, like, usually the more zealous an individual is among the imperial citizens and, you know, soldiers and whatnot, it's because they have to face certain things that you would have to be literally fucking insane to go against. So you need people who are literally brainwashed and have no other purpose in mind than protecting certain interests and propagating certain beliefs among them, you know? And it's a really fucked up thing. But yeah, that's why it's grim. And that's why humans aren't the good guys. Now, before I go on this argument, because yeah, it's gonna be covered by this video, I'm gonna let Adam take us there first. And then I'm gonna continue commenting on this shit.
Gamergaters counter this by accusing such critics of overreaction. It's just a game, you're taking it way too seriously, nobody wants to be a literal space Nazi, you guys need to chill the fuck out, they say. So what's going on here? Do Gamergaters have a point?
Yeah, nobody really wants to be a space Nazi, but everyone wants to wear the power armor and fucking kill, you know, fucking tyrannies and shit. Yeah, so yeah, okay, why not? And believe it or not, there are individuals, self-included, who can differentiate which elements of the Imperial Army they like and which they don't, right? If I was a Warhammer player, I would really not play Space Marines. I would probably play a Dark Eldar from what I've seen, or like just Eldar from what I've seen, right? I wouldn't touch Space Marines, not because they're fascist, but like their ideology is just like something that I don't abide with, and that's okay. But I won't say that they're fascist. I can't really just look at the game and say, oh, this is like fascist propaganda. Because imagine this. Imagine that the Zerg that, you know, as Adam puts it, imagine that the Zerg are like, by the way, I'm talking about the tyrannies, are like the main army, right? And we view everything from the perspective of the Zerg, right? So are you telling me that then there would be an equally stupid argument between two sides where one would say, oh my god, like you get what I'm saying? Like you can't, do you get what I'm saying though? I hope you do. I hope you do. Because these problems only begin because people are focused on one faction, but like if you apply the same arguments on another faction, they start becoming ridiculous. So why are we focusing so much on Space Marines? Like, for real, I don't know. Yes, they're negative traits, let's say, as an army, as like a side faction to play as. Which, by the way, playing as that faction doesn't make you a fascist. Just saying, you just enjoy their miniatures, you just enjoy their aesthetics and their rules and their units and whatnot, and that's what you're meant to do. The rest is dressing. It's interesting fluff that you can just like go by or not go by. That's what it is. I won't try to say just very generically, oh, it's just a game, bro. But I will say, like, at the same time, it's what you want it to be and what you make out of it, right? I just see those traits of the Imperium as warning signs, as like cautionary tale, for example, right? The same way that I see the Tao's greater good, like the problems with a greater good kind of idea, I see those problems as well. I also don't want to play as Tao because of that. But I'm glad that they exist. I'm glad they're there. I'm glad that people are enjoying their units and all that shit. Their units are kind of cool. So yeah, you know, you just have to, sometimes you just have to use your brain. Sometimes you just have to have enough filters there that you're not gonna see 40k and go, oh, that's definitely, I know what they intended with that. That's like, oh my god, it's like Nazis in space. That's what it is. Like, those are leaps of logic and like very, I don't know, it's a little bit of the opposite of mental gymnastics. Like, you're not doing enough mental gymnastics. which usually means you should be shielded from certain content because you might develop very, harmful ideas or views. Um, and it's not gatekeeping. It's like if you're so sensitive that you're gonna see what is essentially just a miniature game where every side has to be presented as literally having major flaws, enough flaws to make you hate them, to make you, quote unquote, of course, but to make you like want to wage war against them, because that's the purpose of the universe, that's the purpose of the tabletop, right? It bases a lot on that. It's not just chess, where it doesn't matter, and where the pawns are gonna be looking the same. You're supposed to have like your favorite faction. You're supposed to like the flair, to like this, to like that. It is very visual. It is very visual. And of course, it's called Warhammer, so it wants to get you in that mood. And that is only as harmful as, let's say, airsoft, like playing airsoft. Are you gonna tell me that you're training to be I don't want to say what, just because you like airsoft? So, or what, are you gonna tell me that airsoft is fascist because it prepares you for what, urban warfare for your like favorite faction? Like these are, God, these are absurdities, honestly. These are honestly absurdities. And yes, they might apply in some very fringe cases where a person can be completely like a complete psycho, but like I don't think that's the fault of Games Workshop or like, Airsoft in general. And you can't really control that. And obviously there are going to be some unfiltered minds that are going to be affected like to a degree. They're going to be stupid people. See, for example, actual fascists, where they think that like Warhammer is a node to their ideologies. Like, wake up, you morons! For real, it's so fucking stupid. Which is not to say, that it couldn't use more options in there. That's why I like the female custodes, because okay, we're moving on. Let's go. We're adding options everywhere. Options which were there for all the other races, so why the fuck not, fucking humans as well? What if I want to play Space Marines but there's no like female, so what am I gonna do then? At least now I got Custodes, right? So there is that, but anyway, whatever. I think in general, some of the things that Adam is gonna tell you, my opinion on them is that like they're trying to open it up and soften it. They're trying to open it up and soften it, and to undo whatever damage has been done from all the like dated and archaic origins of such a tabletop and its lore more specifically. It's gonna take a lot of small steps, to move a little bit away from elements that can be rather criticized, but like not letting it move away from it, that's what's problematic. It's the same thing as like having a friend who was once like, maybe a fascist, and they're trying to move away from it, and you're like, but if you do that, you're not the John I always knew. Because that old John in this example is kind of like a dickhead, so the new John is trying to avoid that, and you're going like, but it's not original, it's not the John we knew. Then the problem lies with you, I would think. Why would you get what I'm saying? Anyway, let's go on though.
Is Warhammer turning woke? Or are the critics correct here, and Warhammer is indeed turning into a celebration of fascism? To answer this question, we need to talk about Starship Troopers, the subject of much online discussion as of late. Now, please hold that thought for a moment and let me pay some bills. You might have noticed.
My fucking god. My fucking god with Starship Troopers. Listen, what Starship Troopers is, the movie, it's just an adventure. If you see anything else in there, to the point where you seriously believe it's propaganda, dude, you're the one that I talked about earlier, where you should be sheltered from certain content. Um, it's having watched the movie like 50,000 times at this point. I just had fun with it. That's it. It didn't make me. It didn't make me like. It didn't turn me into a fascist, okay? Any more than it turned me into a hippie or something. You know, it's like it's an adventure. Like these are the situations in which you're thrust in as the audience, and you watch it, and it has some like bombastic scenes, and it has some like old school charm, and it's basically soldiers shooting bugs, which you always wanted to see because you like StarCraft, you little bitch. So you got it. That's it. What else is there to talk about? Yeah, sure. I don't fucking know, dude. I don't fucking know. There are many ideas in it that you can just discuss on a philosophical level, but I don't think they were per se intentional. As in, like, this movie doesn't want you to think. It just wants you to enjoy the spectacle. It doesn't really idealize anything. It is just cool scenes of people fighting monsters. Um, yeah, that's literally what it is. You know, in a way, it's yeah. If you want to look like very deep into it, right? Which this guy will, by the way, so I don't need to do it for you. Um, yeah, you can find things, but then you're looking too deep, though, aren't you? Like just even if you believed that there was something there that is completely suspicious, I wonder if you couldn't like filter it out a little bit. And then when you say that it's a good movie and you had fun watching it, you're not literally saying, ah, I approve of fascism. You're just literally saying, it was a good movie, that's all. Yeah, it was a good movie, good scenes, nice. Now, if we want to discuss like if it could mean something more, yeah, we can. But like that should be separate from the core idea, which is to go and watch a movie and have fun while watching it. You know, it would be valid for someone to say, coming out of the theaters, did you feel a little bit more fascist than before? The answer would be no. Like, I felt the only thing I felt a little bit more of, for example, when I watched it for the first time ever in my life in the theaters, was damn. You know, if Earth was ever invaded, and that's what happened, that would be epic, dude. You know, minus of course the tragedies and deaths. But that looked epic though. Like, yeah, for sure. Um, that's like the most that got out of me. You know, really cool movie, had fun. Um, they're shooting the shooties against like the creatures, and it's fun. It's fun to watch. They go boom, and then you know the other guy just jumps on top of a huge beetle, and he just explodes it, and it's really cool. But like his new girlfriend dies, which is sad. So there's drama, and then like you know, do you really want me to just explain to you like sometimes, yeah, even if you did believe it's propaganda, right? All you have to do is ignore it. And when you see someone go like, I watched it and now I want to be a space fascist, you can tell them like, you know, that's not really the message you should be taking. Let's have a talk about it. And that's when you can discuss it. But like out of nowhere, just going like, no, it's definitely just like, it's, you know, if you watch it, you're going to get brainwashed into being like a, you know, uh, secretly a sleeper agent of some like fascist regime in the cooking in the oven or something. Like what, bro? No, sorry, but just no. You know, it just relax, just calm down. It's just a movie, okay? It's just a movie in the end. That's nothing else there. if somebody sees more, then yeah, sure, go for it. Like, educate them that yeah, what you're watching is not meant to turn you into this or that. It's just yeah, just the same way that people are saying, oh, watching this is trying like. Have you heard like this stupid thing like the message? Which all the anti-woke people just claim, oh, the message, the message. There is no message. It's just like, you know, we are in 2024 and like there are trans people around. There are black people. There are like yellow, white, red, green, blue people. They're gonna be included because we're kind of like fucking done with all the archaic ideas and we're moving on. You know, it's not a message. It's like that's how it is. You know, that's just how it is. Just move on. Let's go. Like why are we stopping at this? Why are we gawking at this? You know, there's no message. Nobody's trying to indoctrinate you. You know, people's existence is more meaningful than trying to convince like you behind your screen that you should immediately go wear thigh highs and be, you know, a hot femboy. Like, you don't have to. People can be that, and they do genuinely, you know, live like that, and that's awesome. And just yeah, it doesn't affect you. Just move on with your life. Like, what the fuck? Nobody's trying to convince you of anything. Like, why do you feel attacked? Like, what's going on? So in the same way, like these movies, they're not trying to make you like Warhammer is not trying to make you a fascist. It's just that like elements of it can invoke such thoughts, you know, and that's it. And you don't have to swallow that pill. Like, you can just like don't play Space Marines, play Tyrannies, play Necron. It's, you know, I assure you, there's no shortage of races, and there is no shortage of factions and factions within the factions, and there are even like a lot of imperial factions within factions, and even custom Space Marine chapters you can make, which can, according to your head canon, not be so attached to certain ideologies. You know, if you feel like these ideologies aren't for you, you know. Which is something I considered as well. You know, I was always on the lookout for chapters that were not abiding so strictly to certain doctrines of the Imperium, which, by the way, the Emperor himself, for example, fucking, what's the word? Condemns them, you know? So make of that what you will, but let's move on.
Notice that the world is kind of going insane at the moment, with Trump nominating a pro-Putin grifter as the director of US National Intelligence and a vaccine denier as Secretary of Health. The political scene could not be more tense and uncertain, and this brings with it a steady growth of politically motivated online harassment, among others. Keeping your personal data to yourself is more important than ever. And Delete Me, the sponsor of today's video, is specialized to remove privacy that will get you funny drinking Warhammer, a sort of centralized militaristic human empire called the Terran Federation, battling it out with various alien species, including giant space bugs. Much like Warhammer, Starship Troopers grew out of an original niche IP. With Warhammer 40k, it was the tabletop game. With Starship Troopers, it was a book which later got adapted into series, movies, and games, making the IP transition from niche to the relative mainstream. Now, tabletop Warhammer is very different from video game Warhammer, Space Marine 2 in particular, and in the same way there is a big difference between Starship Troopers the book and Starship Troopers the movie, the 1997 movie, which was at the center of that god-awful discourse. The Starship Troopers book is rather jingoistic. Some people called it fascist literature, but I don't really agree with that label. The book is militaristic, obsessed with toughness and masculinity, heroism and honor, but it's otherwise not covert fascist propaganda or anything. It was written by a former soldier at the height of the Red Scare and McCarthyism in the 1950s, so as far as I can see, Starship Troopers is really a product of its time. It's still very right-wing, idolizes the military. In fact, in that world, the only way to gain full rights as a citizen is through military service and so on. But is it fascist? No, it's just 1950s right-wing and jingoistic. Imagine a
Yeah, exactly. And you could level the same criticism to Warhammer. However, that's what I said, that like they're trying to move away from it slowly. But you can see from the backlash how long it's gonna take for that to happen. But what can happen easily is just let it be, instead of like fighting it all the time. If you're one of those people who are like such a fucking purist that you're like, no, it should be preserved, even if like those ideals are like, nah, just wake the fuck up, dude. Wake the fuck up. It's fine. It's fine. Lore and source material needs to adapt to the times. So yeah, it's been many years. It's been many years. It's been many years, and nobody wants to reinvent Starship Troopers, but there is interest in reinventing Warhammer, so that's what's happening. It's not a part of any message or propaganda, and the same can be said about whatever somebody might conclude is fascist propaganda. On the other hand, it's not. It's just a product of its time. We're trying to to move away from it. That's it. Let's go. There's nothing else going on there. And yeah, what can you do? The this idea of unified and more militaristic Earth as a whole. I mean, nobody seems to have such a huge issue with some of those concepts when it is like a movie like, let's say, Battle for Los Angeles, right? Or War of the Worlds. You don't see much of infighting between humans. You're like, yeah, now that we have another threat, we are unified against that threat, and that's cool to see, I guess. People unifying. Could be cooler, we could make peace with them, but if they don't want to make peace with us, then in the concept of the book, we have to fight back as one, united. Yeah. So yeah, those are the kinds of ideas that like lie under all this, not some secret agenda or coded encrypted instructions on how to reach like the hidden Nazi base in the Antarctic. Okay, so let's see. Oh my god.
Sci-fi universe created by an ex-military boomer who has a Clint Eastwood profile picture on Facebook and who can't shut up about how back in his day everyone worked 26-hour workdays 10 days a week and no one complained, as opposed to the weak and entitled generation today. Military service should be compulsory to teach these soy latte drinking weaklings some discipline, but in person the guy is nice to you and always offers you beer when you come over. That's the authorial context of the Starship Troopers book, basically. Now keep in mind, while the book itself isn't fascistic, the Terran Federation in it kind of is, and the values of the 1997 Starship Troopers movie are in many ways the opposite of the books. The director, Paul Verhoeven, grew up during the Nazi occupation of the Netherlands and didn't really like fascist, hyper-militaristic ideologies for obvious reasons. So he proceeded to subvert our expectations. Not with medieval anti-air railguns firing tungsten rounds at Mach 5, but by turning the Terran Federation, the Starship Troopers, into a satire of jingoism and fascism. While the book depicts the Terran Federation's campaign against the bugs as a heroic struggle, the movie portrays it as a hopeless war started on false pretenses, fought by a bunch of propaganda-addled macho idiots marching into certain death.
Yeah, and you have to understand here. I fully agree, by the way, with what the guy is saying. Fully agree. Is it though? Is it meant to be satire, subtle, maybe? But I think what it's trying to do is literally just show you the fun of it, because it's a movie, right? War is not fun, but through these exaggerations and by not portraying like people fighting other people, it's just turning war into some kind of like bombastic spectacle for you to see without thinking too much about it, Now, the idea here isn't to lull you into accepting ideologies, but rather to offer spectacle. So, yeah, that's my opinion on it. Nice cap though, nice freeze frame there. Good job, Michael Ironside. But yeah, that's how I feel about it, at least. And I think that like taking it as anything else, I mean, it's a movie, that's what movies do, right? So, it movies very well. I have to tell you that it really movies very well. Um, I enjoyed it thoroughly, watching it every single time. And none of the people that I watched it with um, thought that it was rather fascist, They did find it dangerous to look at. That's the most that I heard anyone say. That, like, it's a little bit. Are they telling us that fascists are good? And I was like, nah, just watch. Like, just watch. It's the story of a unit in a war. Yes, you can make up a whole story, which Adam will guide you through, very thankfully, and with which I kind of agree, actually. You can detect these undertones, obviously, these like underlying premises. You can definitely see them. You can definitely spin them this or that way if you want, depending on how you think. But that's a you thing more than like the movies thing, The movie is just observing the adventures of a certain unit amidst the chaos without examining too much what caused it and why. And that's what you're supposed to walk away from the theater with, that spectacle, nothing else. So yeah, I don't know, maybe you disagree completely with me, and in that case I will remind you that what you're about to hear right now from Adam is something I completely agree with, and something that I did think about eventually. After the fourth, fifth time I watched it, I was like, hey, because your mind is gonna wander if you watch something like way too many times. You're gonna start trying to find things to hook onto and see anew, let's say, and find more things and more things, like this normal stuff. Like, it happens with everything. You can watch a video on YouTube like 50,000 times, your brain's gonna start, overanalyzing things, not in a bad way. I don't mind overanalyzing. Which is also why I agree with the things that Adam is about to tell you. It's, speaking of,
where instead of heroic acts, glorious sacrifices, and cinematic last stands, you just get torn apart by giant bugs. I mean, the whole reason for the war is that supposedly bugs pulled the Javier Milei and destroyed Buenos Aires by launching an asteroid from a different solar system towards Earth. If anyone is getting Iraq War, Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction vibes, yeah, you should. The bug's home system is tens of thousands of light years away. Even if they somehow managed to precisely hit Earth from such a distance, the asteroid would have taken millions of years to get there. So no, the bugs could not have done it. The whole asteroid business also begs the question, if the bugs can pull that off, why don't they keep doing it once humans attack them? Because it's all bullshit. The asteroid was an accident at best and a false flag operation at worst that got blamed on the bugs to keep the war machine and thus the military-industrial complex occupied. In the end, however, all humans accomplish is getting a bunch of soldiers murdered. By the end of the movie, we see literal child soldiers deployed as the Terran Federation is running out of regular troops. And it's not like the bugs are a threat to humanity. They aren't like the the Tyranids, actively trying to eat humanity. The bugs are on the other side of the galaxy and generally don't bother you unless you bother them first, which humans did by settling on the bug's home planet. During the closing scene of the Starship Troopers movie, the soldiers capture a brain bug, the bug's equivalent of a command and control vehicle basically. In this scene, Neil Patrick Harris reads the brain bug's emotions and loudly proclaims it's afraid to the soldiers around him, after which everyone erupts in cheers and the whole scene is played off seemingly as the glorious ending of a righteous military campaign. Except it's not, and the movie goes to great lengths showing you why in the 2 hours preceding this scene. First off, as I've said, it was the humans who attacked first. The bugs did not start this conflict. They were attacked based on false pretenses and they decimated the humans for it. I mean, if the literal child soldiers by the end aren't indication enough, I don't know what to tell you. Hundreds of thousands of human deaths for no reason.
So I will only disagree with one thing that he says here, which is that humanity is starved for soldiers. No, it's actually, that is satire. That they are so fucking warmongers. It's such warmongers at this point, where even children are eager to go and sacrifice themselves for quote unquote the greater good, not to be confused with the Tao greater good, but yeah, in a way, I guess. I think that's really the obvious part of the satire, the whole children joining the military as well. I don't think it's because, but that is just lore discussion. That is just lore discussion, nothing to do with any message or anything. But you see here, for example, Adam took it that way, right? Adam took it as in, oh, they're resource starved, you know. Personally, haven't seen any note or comment or anything anywhere saying that yeah, we portrayed children because we wanted to allude to the fact that, like, you know, humans are starved for soldiers at this point, for infantry, and they can't find people. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I never found any official like statement on that one. To me, it was always obvious joke, you know, joke, but like satire, let's say, you know, parodying. That, like, you know, they're such warmongers at this point that they will also show children joining, you know, just to encourage more people to join and all that, you know, basically, you know, you know what I'm saying, right? But I agree with everything else that Adam says, but at the same time, what the movie focuses on, and that's why they don't really go into any depth of, like, because if they wanted to, they could have shown it. They could have shown people reaching the conclusion that, you know, obviously that meteor couldn't have been like intentional, blah blah blah, and it could have turned into like a very serious movie with very serious messages, such as the ones that Adam is alluding to or mentioning, not alluding. But they didn't, because what they want you to do, what the movie intends to do, is for you to focus on a small group of soldiers going through an epic journey. This is the most sanitized way they could show it. So basically a threat against a unified humanity, so that you don't have to constantly overthink of, like, oh, but these are people they're killing. You know, in a way they are people too, because they are, like, you know, a different race. They're bugs, but that doesn't mean that they aren't, like, you know, innocent or their own, like, people as well, in a way. But again, you see, like, the pitfall here. I'm just going into this, like, whole mental journey, when in reality all it's trying to do is, like, look, they're firing at things, and then the things attack them, and they rip them to shreds, and then they rip them to shreds, and oh my god, look at this explosion, and oh fuck, look at how many humans, and listen to the epic music, like, you see the landing on Clendatho, and it's like epic, and you're like, yeah, dude, bring me more popcorn, you know. And that is what it intends to do. The bring me more fucking popcorn. Here is my money. I want to watch it again. It was kind of cool. I had a good time. That's what it's trying to do, because it's a movie. It's trying to movie. It's not trying to do something else. Other movies, you know, rightfully so, if they want to, are trying to make you think. This one, I think, doesn't want you to think, but not in a bad way. So don't get, like, don't get cocky with me. Oh yeah, but that's what they're doing. They don't want you to think about it. No, it's like they just want you to chill and have a space adventure, dude. And that's it. And this is gonna, like, this point of view of mine is gonna come into play later with Warhammer. You'll see what I mean. For now, moving on.
That end scene with the brain bug is basically one massive cope by the Terran Federation. The director even added a nice little touch. When the bug starts jittering out of fear, the soldiers quickly back away from it. This is not a victory. You captured what is basically a single command and control vehicle at the end of your campaign that cost the lives of hundreds of thousands of soldiers. It's like when the other Federation, the Russian one, exhibits a captured Abrams on Red Square. Yeah, you got that one, congrats, but you also lost more than 18,000 pieces of heavy equipment in Ukraine, and it's just a visually confirmed loss, not to mention your casualties. Anyway, the Starship Troopers movie is very clear about it being a satire. The discourse that erupted around it, however, was truly mind-boggling. On one side, you had people with the reasonable take. Everything that happened to humans is basically their fault, the war with the bugs was completely unnecessary, and the Terran Federation is a crazy, jingoistic fascist empire. I mean, the director put Neil Patrick Harris in a literal SS uniform. The message is very clear. Also, the brain bug scene is followed up by a propaganda video in which people
I agree. The message is clear. It's meant to invoke certain things, but I think it's trying to do so to tell you not to look at it. Look, it will make sense when I explain. Perhaps what it's trying to do is tell you that because it looks like that, it doesn't necessarily need to be like that. And I will again bring up military goth, which is a fashion sense, right? Do I need to explain? I don't need to explain. You're adults, all right? So just as easily as Adam here says, but the message is clear. Yeah, for me the message is clear. It's like, yeah, they dress like that, but for the within the confines of the movie, it works in the sense that, like, yeah, it does look cool. It does look like, this person has authority. I mean, have you seen, for example, the commissars in 40K, right? You've seen what they dress like. I don't think you're meant to always think that they're like fascist celebration icons. I think they're meant to exude authority. And if you look into the fashion study of like military uniforms and what it could mean, like a hat like the one worn by the commissars does visually invoke certain emotions, certain things in your mind because of its shape and its general like outline and everything, and how large it is, and like, you know, I really shouldn't have to go that far in explaining to you, but it's also just as valid, if you feel like it, to say that, like, oh, they're dressing them up like that because they want to invoke this feeling. All right, let's go down that line. Why would they want to invoke it? Because like they want you to be happy that the Nazis, the space Nazis, won. No. I don't know if you knew that, but no. Especially because of the things that Adam himself mentions earlier about the director and everything. No, it's not meant to do that. It's meant to show you, I think, the middle ground is the truth always, in my opinion, the simplest answer. It does want to show you that, like, yeah, you can't escape it, but at least perhaps maybe it doesn't have to mean that always, So maybe it's trying to show you that. Now, if you level that criticism on this, then why not take it a bit further, right? Why not take it a bit further and then call anyone who's ever worn anything khaki a warmonger or a fanatic of war, a zealot? Why not? Why not go that far? Like, what's stopping you from there? I would argue that, like, honestly, they just liked the how pompous the outfits looked. They obviously want to kind of like say, look, they're only one step away from something dangerous, and you should always think about that. And I think that's that's like what Warhammer is also trying to do. As I said, it's a cautionary tale as well, how they portray humanity there. It's like one misstep, one moral misstep, and look at how bad things could go. That danger is there. But it's not trying to tell you, oh, but also they are like, you should want to be like them. You're meant to be like, I like some parts of them, but I wouldn't really want to be like them. I could probably, I would want to be better, even if I did wear those things, even if I did do that, I would like to actually be better. But damn, those space armors look cool. So I think that's what's going on here, a mixture between all those things. But I think the most of all, like, is like, damn, they look cool. But not in a way of like, do you also want to be cool? Then you have to be a space Nazi. No, it's just saying, don't condemn the cover of the book. Just read it and learn from it and be better. But also you can be, looking cool if you want to. So just decouple these things, kind of. A lot of things need to be decoupled lately. I'll tell you that in a more general sense. Like, a lot of things need to be fucking decoupled from other things in 2024, because otherwise we're just propagating. We're the ones then propagating like some dangerous messages, just by a fashion statement or just by one silly decision, just because it would look cooler, let's say, when in reality the objective is to create is for the movie to movie and for Warhammer to Warhammer. at the end of the day. I think if there was to be a serious message, serious signaling, let's say, serious fucking this and that propaganda, it would either be far more blatant or far more encrypted. Either or. It wouldn't be, here it is. It won't be lukewarm, trust me. Propaganda is never lukewarm, because that's just not how it works with people over room temperature IQ. And you do want to capture the people with not room temperature IQ, because those people are not going to be good for you if you want to spread any kind of propaganda. Welcome to my TED Talk. Though a point can be made that like you would need some stupidity among your ranks, but that's like such a lengthy discussion right now. But like at the same time, let's ground it. Let's go back to like Starship Troopers and Warhammer, and Adam, take it from here.
Gleefully tortured the brain bug, so there's that too. But some disagreed with this assessment. A lot of people legitimately did not understand how anyone could take the side of the bugs, empathize with the bugs even, when all the Terran Federation characters are attractive and the bugs are disgusting. And I mean, that's the whole point? The way you instinctively feel about the bugs is how a white supremacist feels about blacks, or how a Nazi feels about Jews. Revolting freaks to be crushed under their boots. Not coincidentally, this is often how Jews were depicted by Nazi propaganda. Disgusting insects to be purged from the face of Earth. The movie essentially challenges you to take the side of the group you were conditioned to hate. And oh boy, did many people fail this test.
Yeah, like a lot of people failed this test. They also failed like lots of other tests. Like for example, seeing Neil Patrick Harris's uniform and saying, "Oh, a Nazi, obviously." That's also a failed test, Adam. I want you to know that you failed it. So yeah, right back at you as well. So you see what I mean? Honestly, the reason why it is so multifaceted and so not convoluted, but like confusing to some people is exactly because it's not meant to be anything serious. At the end of the day, it's meant to movie, and that's why people are like, "But what is it saying?" It is similar to the effect of I don't know what I'm doing, so my enemies will never know what I'm doing. It's the kind of like that kind of effect. It's like the movie just wants to movie. You're gonna see what you want to see, of course, but like, duh, you can see it like as you want to see it at the end of the day. And leveling criticism of like, aha, you didn't catch this. You see how easy it is for me to say, aha, Adam, you also didn't catch this. Like it was a test you failed. This guy is not a Nazi. He's not a space Nazi. He just looks like. Same thing for the bugs. The bugs are, we judge them because they look disgusting, blah blah, and so we fail to see that they're also people, right? The same for the humans here. We fail to see. We're so focused on painting them as space Nazis that we fail to see that this is not the case. So and all this happens just because the movie is not particularly trying to focus on anything hidden. It's just like, hey, here are these cool uniforms and these guys are doing cool stuff in space with like cool fucking looking bugs that look fucking sleek and lethal. And they kill soldiers and then the soldiers kill them. And honestly, in my friend circle, and we're not really special kids. We weren't ever really special kids. And what everyone saw when we would like watch this movie wasn't really like, oh, the damn bugs, they're so fucking ugly, man, eliminate all of them. No, they were focused on like, this looks cool. This scene looks cool, and oh my god, this soldier got fucked up, and now this bug got fucked up. This is so cool, man. This is so cool action, That's what we were focusing on the spectacle. I think this movie is spectacle. That's what movies are. That's what adventure movies are, action movies. It's an action movie. It's not drama. It's not comedy. It's not, historical. That's what it's trying to do. So, moving on.
test. The discourse essentially became an indicator of who would fall for Nazi propaganda, where all the Aryan Germans are depicted as tall, strong and beautiful, and all the supposed subhumans as revolting freaks. With that, Starship Troopers gave us a very important revelation about the importance of aesthetics. If an otherwise horrible faction is depicted as badass and handsome in an IP, some people will start idolizing them and co-opt their visuals.
You want the truth? Nobody from my friends, and even I myself, liked the uniform here. It's meh. And honestly, we also found most of the characters to be very vanilla. Like very vanilla, very American in a way. Like just, but not in a good way. Like, like kind of Ken dolls, But if that was like, if the movie was trying to convince you that these are beautiful people, well, yeah, they're nice. I mean, objectively okay, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Nobody particularly stuck out. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, obviously, by the power of boners, people immediately liked, like, my friend group immediately liked um, not the not Rico's eventual girlfriend, but like his first crush, like this girl here. Because the actress is nice, but like that's all. Like other than that, I don't think any of us remembered in particular any of the faces. We were like, yeah, when is the next combat scene? That. But whatever. Okay, let's move on though. Like that's just anecdotal because it's my friend group's experience, right? But let's move on.
No matter how monstrous the faction is or how much satire you heap on. And this brings us to Warhammer 40k. Let's consider its opening paragraphs. It is the 41st millennium. For more than 100 centuries, the Emperor has sat immobile on the golden throne of Earth. He is the master of mankind by the will of the gods, and the master of a million worlds by the might of his inexhaustible armies. He is a rotting carcass, writhing invisibly with power from the dark age of technology. He is the carrion lord of the Imperium, for whom 1,000 souls are sacrificed every day so that he may never truly die. Vast armies give battle in his name on uncounted worlds, but for all their multitudes, they are barely enough to hold off the ever-present threat from aliens, heretics, mutants, and worse. To be a man in such times is to be one amongst untold billions. It is to live in the cruelest and most bloody regime imaginable. These are the tales of those times. Forget the power of technology and science, for so much has been forgotten, never to be relearned. Forget the promise of progress and understanding, for in the grim dark future there is only war. There is no peace among the stars, only an eternity of carnage.
Yes, I will agree that this is first of all, this is beyond epic. This should be preserved. It is beyond epic when it comes to like intros to a game, right? Intro paragraphs to a game. However, we can see here that humanity is shown to be decrepit as fuck, and those closer to the regime at heart seem to suffer for it. Whereas in recent years, with all the books we're getting and all the stuff we're getting, it is clear that like not only are there untold billions of humans, but a lot of them live in worlds so far away that they are unaffected by most of it. For example, they will never even see an orc. They will never even see an eldar. They don't give more fucks about worshipping the emperor than like you would see here in Greece worshipping God, the Christian Orthodox God, that is, since we're talking about Greece. That's, the farther away you are. And so you can actually headcanon your own worlds and your own stories within these worlds that take place. And, maybe you can have, like, even, as I said before, chapters of Space Marines or Imperial Guard regiments that are not so strictly adhering to certain things. It's up to you. And this, I'm gonna use a word that's gonna trigger you probably, as if you are like such a purist Warhammer fan. More diversity is showing up lately, and that is good. And also, this intro can be changed a little bit here and there. But to me, It is perfect, no bullshit. This is war kind of statement. Like, yeah, you know, we have problems. However, this is again once more told through the perspective of a human, and one probably close to the regime, right? And that means that we don't have the perspective of, let's say, an Eldar. We don't have the perspective of even closer. Like, we don't have the perspective of Mars, you know, of the Mechanicum even. We just don't. It's, you know, this is most likely how you would feel as a citizen of Earth who is very well aware of what is going on. Because also a lot of people aren't aware in 40K just because of their distance, literal physical distance from like Earth even, you know. So obviously I'm not trying to say, oh, don't look at that, everything is peachy and there's like roses blooming everywhere. No, it's not that. But at the same time, you have to understand from which perspective. And also you have to understand that this is meant to prime you for a war game, not a peace game. Yeah. It even goes to the extent of saying, hey, he's the Carrion Lord of the Imperium who basically demands sacrifice every day. I mean, that's horrific. That's horrific. Okay, you don't want to be... It's even telling you, like, you probably want to check other factions too. Essentially, you know, it's horrible. So, yeah. And to tell you how outdated this is, let's start with like the will of the gods. There's, as far as I know, no gods appointed the emperor as the emperor. He just seized power. So this already seems outdated, you know. Then it also speaks about you know, his soldiers are the Adeptus Astartes, bioengineered super warriors, right? And then it says their comrades in arms are legion. Not so much anymore. Like, literally, according to the lore, Space Marines are very, very special. You're not gonna be seeing them in the, you know, every day fighting on the front lines. You'd be lucky to see, to paraphrase, you'd be lucky to see a squad deployed on your world if it comes under threat, and that's probably not gonna happen. Also, if it happens, it means that, like, basically your world is so fucking fucked that, yeah, not a lot of options remain at that point. But yeah. So, obviously, yeah. What else do you want me to say about this? It speaks of an eternity of carnage and slaughter and all that. Yeah, sure. I mean, what are you gonna say? They're all friends, but sometimes they fight. It's a war game. You have to be absolutely fucking mad. You have to go bonkers with it, to sell the idea. And sell it did, you know? And that's why it's still a thing. Otherwise, it would have flopped. So, yeah. It's the same way that, like, I'm gonna make a parallel here that you might not like, but it's interesting if you think about it a little bit. You know how League of Legends plays up their players, their top players, by creating videos and cinematics that include the players more than the characters, up to the point where they will have the face, the head, the likeness of the player on the body or, you know, outfit of, like, their favorite character. You know, that is a form of this. It's meant to rouse you, like, to you know, you want to see them fight, you want to see them, you know, struggle and win and the adversity and all that and blah blah blah. you know, it's meant to kind of like lift your spirits, let's say, to prepare you for war. You know, it's a fucking spectacle. It's the nationals. You know, it's the World Cup for League of Legends, right? You need get hyped, bitch. You know, and this is the same. It's like get hyped. This is like a world that is like literally drowning in blood. This is it. You know, there are demons, there are like aliens, there are like humans, there's like Tao, and everyone has like their problems and their good sides and bad sides, and they all fucking fight it out tirelessly all the time. So maybe you're taking it too seriously. Maybe you're doing the equivalent of going like, oh, Faker is in the cutscenes, is in the video. Oh my god, yeah, Faker is a god now. That's it. Like that must mean that he's a god, and like you know, fucking Riot is starting a cult for Faker. Is Riot starting a cult for Faker? You know, are you that stupid? I don't think so. So if you're not that stupid, or I hope not, then how are you taking Warhammer more seriously, or Starship Troopers for the matter? You know. And Faker is gonna fade out, and then somebody else is gonna fade in, and Chains is gonna come, and like the same is for like this, because this is an ongoing franchise. You know, it's not over. Like Starship Troopers is over. It's done. It's a book. It's the movies are over. It's done. You know, that's it. It's spent. There's not much point in reinventing it, I think. Especially considering the competition it would have, right? Because even Helldivers fucking one-shot the entire lore and universe of Starship Troopers just by being the same but larger, better, stronger, and faster. And believe it or not, there are also people who are now saying, oh, Helldivers is literally fascist propaganda as well. Like, go on, Adam. Let's go. And for the record, I do agree on most points, 90% of the points with Adam, right? Just saying.
And slaughter and the laughter of thirsting gods. The 40k universe is a rough place. It's basically war and suffering turned up to a ridiculous level, and it kinda works. Warhammer 40k manages to straddle the line between epic and silly, nailing the perfect ratio of the two. And this works really well for the board game. You both bring out your armies you spent 200 plus hours painting, one of you fields Chaos Marines, the other Astra Militarum, and you duke it out in this silly but epic setting, having lots of fun in the process. This over-the-top horrifying universe is a great niche for tabletop games played by nerds, including yours truly. But what if you want to make a universally appealing AAA video game? How do you implement this idea that everything in the grimdark future is horrible, the soldiers are brainwashed drones dying for nothing, and that the wars you fight are completely hopeless, and all of you are essentially doomed? How do you make an enjoyable AAA game around these ideas? Games Workshop thought long and hard.
So this idea of like the whole universe being doomed, no, not really. Not really. If anything, it seems to be implied, until now at least, that the real threat is the Tyranids. It seems. There is intrigue, there is alliances, there is this, there is that, you know? And for every world that is drenched in the blood of untold billions, there is also another world that people are just like living their lives and they don't even know what's going on. So, and that's on the human side. Who knows what happens on the other faction sides, because we just don't have the insight, because, you know, fuck you Games Workshop for not giving us, you know, the insight there. Because they sound like cool stories you could have told. But anyway, it's not as hopeless as people think. And that's not copium, even though, you know, you can say it's copium if you want. But the truth of the matter is, you can headcanon about 50% of Warhammer and you will still be, you know, within lore. So, yeah. Who's to claim that their version of what they experience is like the true version of 40k when there is so much, so much custom stuff you can do, for real. But even if we're talking about, the standardized stuff, yeah, the tabletop is about, fighting it out, because otherwise, what are you gonna do? Role play, having a tea party? I don't think so. I think this is well portrayed in Dawn of War 1, with the whole drama between the Farseer and the Blood Ravens chapter master, whatever. Gabriel Angelos, or whatever his name is. I think it's portrayed well, how that goes. Uneasy alliances form, and fall apart and reform depending on what's going on. And, orc mercenaries can fight for the Imperials, and Eldar can fight alongside humans, and Tau can fight alongside humans, and you see other stuff like that. It's not all that grimdark. I would say that I would argue that, for example, our reality right now is more grimdark, in the sense of, like, there are nonsensical wars being fought. There is, like, resource starvation. There are countries which they don't even know what PC gaming is, and they don't have the luxury of being behind the screen like yours truly and just commenting on a video and having first world problems. Everything is, like, super boring at this point. Like, the most advanced form of entertainment is dating on a VR app, which is VR chat. That's the most advanced form of entertainment you can have right now. People are fighting among each other about diversity and not letting people be whatever the fuck they want to be and leaving them alone. I would say it's just as grimdark, So, and still within that we find, like, wholesomeness and hope. And yeah, if you scale all of that to 11, you get Warhammer. And so, think about that for a bit. Anyway, he's about to make an interesting point, and I'm gonna comment on it.
And decided that they'll just kind of forget about most of the grimdark stuff. The Space Marine games, while containing
They're not forgetting about the grimdark stuff. They're showing you a story which you can experience without worrying too much about the rest, because the rest is a little bit tried at this point. Do you think that people on the tabletop, among their turns, sit there and discuss, your faction is a little bit fascist, brother? No, brother, your tyrannids are essentially lacking individuality. That's suspicious, brother. No, brother, your Eldar are way too hippie-like. That seems to stem from a loose grasp on reality, brother. Do you think they do that? No, they fucking take their G.I. Joes, their advanced G.I. Joes, and they go like, and they're having fun. So, yeah, obviously, if they showed you other stuff than, like, Space Marines versus Tyrannids, they would be showing you a completely different story. But here, they just want to show you an adventure. Just the same way that Starship Troopers doesn't want to focus, not doesn't want you to focus, it doesn't want to focus on deeper meanings, it just wants to focus on the action. Same here. The best way to do that is a story including Tyrannids, because, unified threat against a unified humanity. There you go. That's it. Boom. Done. That's the kind of story they wanted to tell on purpose. Not to diss the grimdark, but because they didn't want to make it grimdark. But that's a conscious choice. It's not propaganda or anything. For example, the come on. I had a very good point, and I'm just right now dropping it in my head. It had to do about a game that was 40k, which did have to do with that. Okay, so Eisenhorn's stories, for example, some of them do show you a side of like the decadence of the empire and like how local governors can be problematic, and you know how absurd like the situation is with like the bureaucracy and stuff. But that wouldn't be that much fun to experience, because even in Eisenhorn's own game, you don't deal with that stuff. You deal with the action, right? And somebody being introduced to Warhammer 40k, they'll have an easier time understanding the scale and like bombasticness of the whole thing through a Tyrannid invasion rather than an adventure game to do, like a Telltale style adventure game to do with navigating the bureaucracy of the Imperium. Yeah, I don't know, but I think it doesn't take a genius to understand that there is no deliberate propaganda here, you know, or hiding under the carpet or something. It's just not fun. It would be boring. In the books, it's interesting, because in the books they don't hide that stuff, right? And even Games Workshop themselves, they don't really necessarily sanitize such stories. For example, if you go on Netflix or whatever, wherever it was, I think it was on Netflix, and you watch like that compilation of stories from the universe, from within the universe of 40k, where some of them are in fact told through the perspective of other races, you will see that, for example, through the eyes of the Eldar, Space Marines are genocidal maniacs, like literal genocidal maniacs, unstoppable murder machines that are unleashed upon your planet and will destroy, kill, and burn everything they deem heretical or illegal or mutant. Okay? So, what do you want to do? Do you want them to portray that? If yes, they might. Right? They might even do that, because remember, there's a game called Spec Ops: The Line, and I'm not gonna say more about that, because like that thing makes me cry every fucking time that I even like remember a certain scene there, where you experience that, and it's harrowing. But that game set out to tell such a story. This game sets out to tell a story, much like Starship Troopers, which is focused on a certain aspect of 40k, which is an environment where the Space Marines can't do wrong, but at the same time you have to think that they are still Space Marines, right? They are still Space Marines, aren't they? And do you think that like Games Workshop believes that you will not look up Warhammer 40k lore and come across many videos explaining how Space Marines are in fact genocidal murder machines? You will. They just don't want that in the game, not because of any nefarious plot that underlies the game, but because it's damn fun to chop bugs, right? And to fucking shoot them and to die in ridiculous ways versus bigger bugs. That's the intent here. And they want to look cool doing it, and so they're doing it while looking cool, you know, while looking cool, sorry. And there you have it, that's it. But if you want to see further, then you can. You know, in the same vein that you can see further in Starship Troopers and start saying, oh, this and that. But if you do that, then again, I will use the example of like, hey, you know, Adam and any Adam, you also failed the test because you got stuck in the idea that Neil Patrick Harris was in a quote-unquote Nazi uniform. He wasn't. You got stuck on that. You got stuck on the aesthetics. You got stuck on the fucking cover of the book. Just have fun with the book. Just have fun with it. It's there for you to have fun with. Not to idolize anything, you know? And in the same way that like Starship Troopers is allowed to do this, and is allowed to be given the benefit of the doubt by you know, such like deep thinkers, what happened to the whole thing to like, you know, it's like flipping the table because the bugs are ugly and you think they're ugly. Well, the same here. Why don't you level that here? Which is correct to do. So you know, how is that idealizing in the 40k case, but waking you up in the Starship Troopers case, quote unquote, waking you up? You know, maybe here you're also meant to take that. Hey, these are other organisms, you know. And yes, there is the whole there is the whole, but the Tyranids are a massive thing that comes into the galaxy and gnomes everything. But that then also only strengthens my point, where it's like, yeah, they just want to present two unified fronts clashing. So what is it going to be? Are you going to lose that way, or are you going to lose the argument this way? You choose. I leave it to you, but you're going to lose that argument both ways anyway. So whatever. So moving on. Hi, Neris, by the way.
Hints of the absurdity of the Imperium are, for the most part, made to make the player feel like a cool, epic, badass war hero soldier mowing down thousands of enemies without breaking a sweat. And with that, Games Workshop has made the biggest mistake possible when it comes to depicting fascists. They made them appear cool and badass. And yes, Space Marines are fascists. They're turbo space Nazis who will turn you into minced
Uh, I will agree to anything that was said here, except they're not trying to make fascism as we know it cool. What is being done here? And this is like just offering a perspective. Yeah? I'm just gonna offer a perspective here. What if, right, they're trying to portray certain aspects that are necessary for the context of the universe as cool, just because if they didn't, nobody would play Space Marines. Nobody, except actual fascists. So I think they're trying to accentuate with how they portray Space Marines in 40k, right? Because what Space Marine 2 is doing is taking what is there, right? So all these criticisms shouldn't be leveled at Space Marine 2 as a game or its developers, but rather at the lore, at the dated lore of Warhammer. And in this dated lore, indeed, the Space Marines are what they need, what the universe they live in needs them to be from the perspective of humanity, which is decadent and decrepit and decaying, right? So, yeah. So, yeah, that is also a good point, that Warhammer at the same time tries to make all the races look cool. Yeah, some of us might not like all the races, but trust me, from the way they're portraying them, they are trying to make every race look cool. You know? They succeed and fail at varying degrees, but let me tell you a little secret. It's very easy to make humans likable because, well, we are human. You know? So it's very easy to. We know a lot about humanity. We know a lot about ourselves, and seeing someone who looks like us is usually going to make us feel, more safe. Let's say, you know. So, in our current understanding, outside of the lore, you could argue that, yeah, the Imperium is fascist. Inside the lore, they are what the universe has turned them into, and that's a cautionary tale. It's not to idealize it. There are Hello Kitty Warhammer crossovers and they're glorious. Yeah, but but I'm not gonna use that as an argument in these conversations. Because I'm trying to limit it to the scope of of the critique leveled, if that makes sense. I don't want to go outside that critique. But yeah, there are crossovers with My Little Pony as well. Don't worry about it. Warhammer is everywhere. I mean, canonically, Warhammer being a thing in our reality is a result of the warp being multiversal. Just in case you didn't know about that theory. Because officially, in canon, the warp is multiversal, which means that 40k can exist within everywhere that you decide it exists. You could argue, for example, that like Stranger Things, right? You could argue that like the dimension in which they rip into is part of the warp. And so you could argue that like Event Horizon is about one of the first times humanity manages to cross over into the warp and come back. You could argue that. You could argue the same about Sphere, another great movie. Um, so, yeah, basically you can argue that. The Mists, for example, in Guild Wars 2, you could argue, oh, they are basically the warp. The Mists are the warp. The fractals of the Mists are in the warp. Like, canonically, like the writers have said this, like, you know, because the warp exists, it connects all realities. Book realities, movie realities, all realities are connected. Anything can be in the 40k verse. And the 40k verse can be in anything that you decide to interpret as such. And I love that theory. I absolutely love that. It's a very clever way to insert your franchise into any other franchise you want. Canonically. Without anyone being able to say anything, because it's in the eye of the beholder. They're not forcing it in there. You're seeing it in there as the viewer. If you decide. You could even go as far as to say that the Fade in Dragon Age is the warp, essentially. And you would find enough facts inside the universe, not of 40k, but of Dragon Age, to support that fact due to the similarities of the warp. 40k, for the most part, is made to be as grimdark as they can, because yes, of course, it needs to incite violence and war within itself, so that, you know, war can continue, because that's how they make money. To appeal through aesthetics and vibe. Yeah, exactly. So, are Space Marine fascists because they exhibit fascist-like ideologies? Hard to actually say yes and no, because what happens in context when you need people completely brainwashed, completely loyal to anything but humanity? It's gonna come to a point where, yeah, you're crossing over to dangerous territory. That's why I'm saying it's very much a cautionary tale, and why I'm saying it's not idealizing Space Marines. You're meant to think of those faults. You're meant to think of those flaws and be like, fuck those guys, I'm gonna play Eldar. You know? Or whatever else you vibe to. Or you can do the opposite, and I'm not gonna call you a fascist for it. You can be like, you know what? Desperate times call for desperate measures. Deploy the fucking Space Marines. Let's fucking go. I will say, yeah, that's an epic line. Let's go, dude. Let's bring your units down there. We're gonna fuck each other up until there's nothing left, because that's the point of the game. It's supposed to create that bombastic feeling, you know. It's supposed to create this unimaginable level of conflict, you know. It's not gonna create it with like rules of engagement for the Space Marines. It's not gonna create it with like, tough guy, but also with limits. It's not gonna create it. It's gonna tread into dangerous territory, okay, necessarily to create the absurdity of war. Space Marines, as well as Space Marine as well as its offshoots, were a means to an end that outlived their creator. They're inhuman by design. Yeah, of course they are inhuman, because you would have to be inhuman to do the things they're called to do, which doesn't mean I justify them in my head, by the way. But I'm telling you that these are part of the flaws of this faction within universe, you know? And there is no way that you're going to tell me that like these guys are like benevolent to normal humans. There are chapters who are, by the way. And again, you can cook your own chapter, and nobody in Games Workshop is gonna bat an eye, because you're meant to do that. You're meant to make it yours. And I sound like a shill right now, and I sound like somebody who's trying to promote 40k. But no, I'm just like examining it, like, you know, as it is. I'm just taking it as it is. I'm not telling you go play Space Marines. I'm not telling you this or that, you know. You will do what you want. But when you tell me that 40k is fascist, I will fight you. It is a cautionary tale against fascism, literally. Even the best champion of Khorne got creeped out by the founder of the Black Templars. Yeah. So, if you want to play Space Marines but don't want to play Space Marines, then play Chaos or play a Rebel chapter, you know, or play Rogue Traders, or who do employ sometimes Space Marines who are more loose with their chapter's ideology or have been cast out, whatnot. There are so many there are so many variations that you can't just blanket state Warhammer is fascist. Like, anyway, I'm gonna continue with this and I'll talk more as he talks more. But again, I'm not disagreeing. Like, with 90% of what Adam says, I do agree. We do seem to have the same sentiments at basis with most things, but there is like this 10% is kind of stinky.
Meet if you say something they deem heretical. Atrocities, purges, and genocides are just par for the course for them. If your service to the Imperium...
The way Space Marines act and think is meant to be that way to shield them, quote unquote, from free will, because you don't want these guys to have free will. Because free will plus Space Marine is a potential disaster, is a potential country level disaster, going by the lore, you know. But going by the tabletop, of course, you know, a squad of Imperial Guard is going to take them down. But if you see how they're portrayed in the books, you don't want one of them questioning orders at any point. They're created that way, you know. And also another point is that, like, the Imperium doesn't really want you to see them, because if you see them, you're probably gonna get killed by them. By the way, they're not gonna care. So yeah, they will rather send the Imperial Guard rather than like a squad of Space Marines. So, you know, there is that. I don't think anyone who is not robbed of their free will and brainwashed sufficiently and told that, like, hey, here you go, you have supreme authority, go down there and kill that big thing, because we're not gonna go down there, okay? You go down there, kill that big thing with the teeth, and you do you, bro. Go down to the surface and we'll watch over from like orbit while you just chop down like gigantic fucking death machines. And yeah, that Space Marine is not gonna go insane by looking at these things, because he's conditioned absolutely and completely to just believe in, like, yeah, believe in humanity, bro. Just go for the Emperor. Yeah, for the, absolutely, just go down there. See ya in a bit, okay? Here you go, here's your drop pod. For the Emperor, yeah, for the Emperor, just go in there. Yeah, it's fine, go in there. You know? And yeah, what you're saying there with the win is like exactly what I was saying earlier. Like, imagine if in the tabletop, players were like discussing politics of their favorite faction mid-fight, you know? What? Nobody wants that. Just people want to clash. People want to smash together G.I. Joe dolls, dude. That's what they want to do. Who the fuck cares? Why are you reading so much into it? You know? People just want to bring their painted army and go like... You know? They don't want to fucking start a conversation. You know? So, yeah, that's it. Let's move on, though.
means mowing down 10,000 civilians because there might be heretics among them, so be it. You're murdering women and children without any second thought or remorse because you are a mindless drone bred for combat, and that's just what it's like to live under the cruelest and most bloody regime imaginable. If you doubt me, I invite you to check out the episode in The Garden of Ghosts from the Hammer and Bolter series, where we are treated to a scene of a purged forge.
I agree completely with that, but that statement goes for the Space Marines, okay? Because just as this story, which was a nice story, portrays Space Marines are absolute butchers, which they are, okay? At the same time, you can portray a story, for example, about an Imperial Guard soldier who meets an Eldar soldier, and hey, maybe they even fall in love. That is the complexity and depth of this setting, of the 40k setting. And people are so fucking stuck on the grimdark because that's what needs to be in the forefront, because you're not gonna sell the idea by telling them, hey, you know, they fight, but not really, like they always end up being friends, to be honest. Like, you can't do that. By definition, these stories have to be outliers and they have to be the exception, but they do exist. And even if they didn't exist, it's Warhammer. It's not like Flower Hammer, you know? So, is it fascist for that? Is it really though? Is it really though? I don't know. I'm not so sure. Anyway, moving on. Good episode, by the way. I loved this episode. I really loved it. Yeah.
World. No, wait, that's the Adeptus Mechanicus thing. All right. Craft World. That's a giant space habitat, basically, where the Eldari, the space elves, live. Home to millions at minimum. Well, the noble Ultramarines massacred the entire Forge world, murdering untold thousands of men, women, and children. Because they were Xenos, therefore degenerate, therefore worthy of death. Shout out to Purity Seal for this lore tip, by the way. You can find his channel under @thepurityseal. In popular first-person shooters, however, such things cannot be depicted because your game would be banned worldwide. A Warhammer 40k shooter game true to the lore would be a war crime simulator.
Remember, no Russian.
No, it wouldn't be a war crime simulator because it depends on what the situation, the sitrep, let's say, of the mission is. It can be close to like an absolute massacre because maybe there are like compromised citizens on a planet. It can be a rogue trade adventure. It can be from the perspective of the Dark Eldar. It can be from the perspective. It can be a Dark Eldar raid. It can be an Eldar philosophical, you know, Telltale style game. It can be anything the fuck you want it. It depends on the sitrep. You can't say, oh, if you actually let them play the real Warhammer. What's the real Warhammer? What is the real Warhammer? Because all of these scenarios are the real Warhammer. The love story between the Dark Eldar and the Eldar, the love story between the Imperial Guard and, like, I don't know, a Sister of Silence who can't even speak, the love story, the camaraderie between an Orc mercenary and an Ogryn, you know, who are left to fight, the crazy adventures of that silly Orc that went into the warp and started fighting demons until even at this moment that we're speaking, you know, for the entertainment of Khorne. It can be the story of that other Orc who started growing so big that it became its own planet in the end. And who the fuck knows what happened to that guy, by the way. I'd like to know what happened with that. It's the detective stories of Eisenhorn. It's the fun adventures of Kiafas Kane, who are very comical and actually quite interesting. All of those are true Warhammer, from start to finish, 100% true Warhammer. So yes, there will be this scenario, there will be that scenario. It's all of these scenarios. In my opinion, the Rogue Trader RPG game gives a good impression of the lower level 40k. Yeah. I mean, you know, the whole Necromunda thing also is another thing. That's also true Warhammer. A lot of things are true Warhammer. There are, of course, scenarios in which you would portray the hero as partaking into a massacre, into a genocide, and then, again, you know, Spec Ops the fucking line isn't even 40k but does the same thing. They could very easily do that, but before Spec Ops the line, there was a whole line, no pun intended, of games where you did play the actual hero, you know, before we were ready and before the devs of Spec Ops the line were ready to portray that, you know? And they flipped the whole genre onto its head because you no longer were the hero, okay? and the ending of Spec Ops: The Line, and I'm gonna watch it afterwards because now I miss it, was an emotional wrecking ball, honestly. And there is another scene earlier, again, like, you know the scene. You fucking know the scene. You know the scene. I'm gonna watch it afterwards. I miss that shit. I'll probably tear up as well when we watch it. Could 40K do that? Yes. Might it do that? Yeah, probably. If they're smart, they'll do it. They already kinda do it in, like, again, the series, which Adam also references. They do show them literally genociding fucking Eldars. Um, so yeah, pretty much so. And they also show it in that adventure, in that episode where somebody, some Imperial Guard messenger, is trying to deliver a message. Just watch that episode and tell me what you think, because if you watch it and finish it and you're not thinking, oh my god, that is so grimdark, oh my god, this is not heroism, they're dying for nothing, they're literally just microscopic cogs, they don't even matter, but they sacrifice themselves like that is like so sad, you know. It's also heroic though. It does show heroism as well. It doesn't have to be shallow. It can show both things. Just like Starship Troopers can show both things. And do it while also looking cool. Just like Starship Troopers and Warhammer. And are there adventures in there where, by definition of the SITREP, the Space Marines are doing something extremely beneficial and good to the whole of the galaxy? Yeah, why not? Why are they not allowed to, you know? It doesn't mean that we celebrate their more fascistic elements. We don't forget those, but in that context, and in the context, therefore, of Space Marine 2, yeah, they're doing something heroic, to be honest. Now, are they the good guys? No, they most definitely aren't. Is the game meant to tell you they're good guys? Not really, no. Not really. Not really, because even though they're portrayed as the titular, heroes, um, at the same time they hide like this dark. Why do you think? Why do you think that like Imperial Guard? Some of them are relieved when they see Space Marines, and some of them shit their pants because they know that at any moment they have the authority and power, and you would never be able to stop them, to literally massacre your entire regiment on a suspicion of like heresy. This is portrayed in 40K. It just so happens that Space Marine 2 portrays this battle between Tyranids and humans, right, and the Imperium. In which context, you might think that Space Marines are flawless Supermen. But then you're gonna go on YouTube and you're gonna search and you're gonna see that these flaws are not really hidden. They are in your face, literally. But would I like more, more stories from the perspective of other races? Maybe some that portray Space Marines as not so good? Yeah, I would. That is a healthy criticism. That's a healthy criticism. Yeah, I would. I would like to fight Space Marines that are completely genocidal, for example, and then you see that brutality, and you experience it as like, let's say, a Tau or something, which then again you yourself would be flawed, and that's natural. That's normal, and somebody googling Tau would then find out that like they too are kind of they're kind of loony, with their fucking proselytization and their fucking false promise of the greater good, and like their self-perception as like the only good people in the galaxy and all that pretentiousness. But you see behind it the possibly sinister undertone of who the fuck are the ethereals, who the fuck are, what happened there, how did they appear and just immediately unify the Tau into one, what happened there, we don't have any proper narration of that. We don't have reliable accounts of that, or even first-person accounts of that. So who knows? You know, it's all a mystery. So even they aren't the good guys. So, you know, I think these criticisms are false here. Let's continue.
And it would just be weird playing as a psychotic, murderous maniac committing crimes against humanity for 8 hours without any self-awareness or remorse. Actually that sounds like super fun and— wait, I'm sorry, this video is for people 13 and above. Who let these children in here? But I love playing as an unrepentant murderous psycho. Yeah, try playing Mass Effect as a—
Nobody likes playing as an unrepenting psycho, but Space Marines, under a certain context, like depending on the situation, are an easy choice as a protagonist. They're human, kinda, and in a lot of situations they will act heroically, which, you know, it's easy to convey and it's easy to relate to. So it just makes sense. I don't think, though, that they're idolizing being a homicidal maniac. I don't think they're doing that. They're just showing you, just like Starship Troopers. They're just showing you some situations which are really fun to experience as, you know. You don't have to think twice about it if you don't want to, but if you do think twice about it, then really think about it. Not just go like, oh, you know, they're fascists. Just think about everything in that case. Like, just go as deep as it goes. Don't stop on the layer of thought that actually, you know, conveniences your rhetoric or your point of view. Go even deeper and see it for what it truly is, if you're gonna go deep. But not going deep is also fine. You know, it doesn't mean you're blind to fascism, because it's not necessarily that. But anyway, let's go on. I think this whole segment is part of the 10% I disagree with Adam.
Renegade. Don't believe me? Apparently, according to Mass Effect player stats, 92% of players played as Paragon and only 8% as Renegade. Most people just don't want to be an asshole, not even in video games. But even if a Warhammer shooter was true to form and the player was made to feel like a disposable—
any race you play can be viewed as a homicidal maniac. Every single race can be viewed as a homicidal maniac race. And it will have members that will be that, obviously. What's the big deal here? It's a war game.
cognitive purposeless murder machine tasked with the occasional genocide. There are people who would love that and would absolutely play that game. I get that. But if you're making a game, you want to appeal to the widest audience possible, not just to people on terror watch lists. And Space Marine 2, the latest Warhammer 40k game, ended up doing the former, choosing appeal over what I would call honesty about its universe. You're not a mindless, psychotic drone killing in the name of a doomed fascist empire, but a noble, heroic warrior protecting your home from freaks and degenerates. The overt satire—
no, you're actually the first. You're literally the first. Literally the first. If you haven't ever touched any 40k, it could seem like it's the second, the latter. But in reality, no, you were always the first. Let's go on. In lore, you are that. In lore. I'm sorry to break it to you, but you are that in lore. It's in fact interesting because it shows through the interactions of your squad that they themselves are conditioned to look upon each other as exactly this, the saviors of mankind, this and that. It goes to show, and this is also in lore, right? This is like canonical, because they need, their training teaches them to think that, because if they don't, if for a moment they doubt that, they're done. They're gonna be done. Like, they cannot afford a second of hesitation. They cannot afford anything because they aren't really meant to. They're meant to be these... whether you see them as badasses is irrelevant. What they're meant to be is these tools of distraction. Essentially, they're meant to be weapons. You don't want your weapon to think. Trust me on that one. You want them to land on the planet and have the necessary mental capacity and acuity, the necessary lack of awareness, the necessary this and that and all the other negative and positive things, because there are positive things in there by definition. And you want it to be consistent and reliable, because if it falters even for one moment, you're basically cooked. And that's it. Anyone going into any Warhammer game thinking that they're the hero, they're kind of deluded, and also probably taking it too seriously, in my opinion. I don't think anybody who knows a couple of things about Warhammer sees Space Marines and goes, damn, that's my ideal parent figure. So your ideal parent figure is like a literal scientific aberration designed for the sole purpose of war and conquest, who cannot procreate, cannot love, cannot think. Really, that's your that's like your idol? The problem lies with you, not with the portrayal of Space Marines. But is it cool playing as a Space Marine while they cleanse a tyrant invasion? Hell yeah! Hell fucking yeah! That's why this shit sells. And I, for one, am signed up for this shit. Like, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Would I like to be experiencing the same campaign through the eyes of an Eldar? Yeah. Cool. Through the eyes of like a Tau? Yes. Cool. Would I like to do the same as a Khorne Berserker? Yeah. Sign me the fuck up. The same as an Orc? Yeah. Okay. And even as a Tyrannid? Yeah. Just fucking give me my little swarm and let me fucking let me consume the whole planet if I can. You know, let me grow from a tiny organism, like a tiny little fluffer, into some kind of like whatever, you know? So fuck off, Adam, for presenting things only down to the iceberg level that you feel is convenient. Like, you shouldn't be doing that, brother. Anyway.
Is basically gone because it had to be. There are allusions to the Imperium being bad, but not nearly overt enough. A Warhammer 40k true to form would be like a version of modern warfare where every second mission is no Russian, only even more bloody and deranged. But if anyone released a game like that, most...
They did release a game like that. You're playing it. You're playing as a deranged maniac who is like crazy enough to go solo against a horde of fucking aliens that can rip you to shreds in nanoseconds. You are playing as that. Literally. Oh my god. For the Baldur's Gate thing, you're gonna have to ask Kaori directly, because I'm just here and I'm ready for it. And so let's see if Kaori, like if and when Kaori is ready for it, and then arrange from there. Otherwise, I'm just gonna continue talking about this because I find it highly interesting. But until then, I'll continue. And even if Kaori can't play, once you find out that they can't play, you can just tell me, right? It's kind of like doing an in-depth analysis of the personalities of chess pieces based on every chess movie and novel. I see what you mean. Sounds good, you're ready, barring the usual small break. Okay, but find out if Kaori is ready as well. And then we'll talk. Like, arrange it between you and tell me what the result is, and we'll go by the result. That's what I'm saying. That is the most logical way. It's not like I'm relegating responsibilities here. It's more like I'm the host, I'm the streamer, and you guys are coping with me. So you figure it out, and I'm just here streaming. So I don't really have to figure out anything. I'm pulling a Trailer Park Boys on this one. I'm pulling a Ricky on that one, okay? Yeah, no worries, I asked. Okay, cool. So if you ask, just let me know about the results, and I will read it and react, accordingly. But for now,
Most countries wouldn't even let them publish it. Keep in mind, by the way, that I do like Space Marine 2, and I do think it's a good game. Just before anyone would start yelling at me how the game isn't bad, actually. I agree, it's a good game, it's cool and epic, and I like it. But there are overarching issues with it, which we're currently discussing. Now, the reason why the Warhammer 40k books and tabletop games are allowed to get away with containing atrocities, while video games aren't, is because in the game you would get to act out said atrocities. At the very least, we would get vivid depictions.
False, because other games have done that. I think it's a matter of time before Games Workshop decides that yes, a more controversial story would be very interesting. And I know they will allow such a game because they've allowed such depictions in series already, and the series is very close to a game. So, yeah.
Of them. You don't just read about, say, Space Marines murdering 10,000 women and children, or you don't just play with miniatures of a Space Marine faction, which according to the lore once murdered 10,000 women and children. Nope. This is an interactive video game where you are a Space Marine, and congratulations, your next mission is to purge a civilian slum of 10,000 where the presence of heretics is suspected. Here's your chainsword and plasma incinerator, good luck. And then you get dropped onto the map with a counter appearing on your screen standing at 0 out of 10,000. Nobody would want to play that game, and those who even bother to try wouldn't have fun playing it if the game was even legal to distribute, even though such a game would fit perfectly into the Warhammer 40k universe.
Again, Spec Ops The Line, it was absolutely what this guy is describing, and yet people played it again and again, and they loved it, and they cried, and they loved that they cried, and they loved what it did for a reason. And imagine, I will take it a step further, imagine that this is how the next Space Marine 3, you are exactly what this guy is saying. Exactly what this guy is saying, okay? And once you reach about 10,000 kills, you then start seeing some strange motives. You're starting to realize that you're literally murdering civilians who aren't fighting back. What's going on here? And now you're playing as a Space Marine who is slowly becoming a rogue, you know? And then you're also having to contend with like others in your own chapter suspecting you of heresy, and you end up going rogue and stuff. How interesting would that be, you know? Also, can we acknowledge for a second that in this setting, so in the context of 40k, one of those 10,000 knowing the wrong thing, or like obviously coming in contact with the wrong thing, can actually tear apart the fabric of reality. Yeah, that is also true. So you also have to consider the context. But consider a game like the one I'm telling you, which is building upon what Adam is telling you would be insane. It's not insane. It's actually not insane. It would make an interesting game. And in a way, that particular series that I mentioned goes there. So I think it's a little bit of a matter of time, you know? We'll see.
Such is life under the cruelest and most bloody regime imaginable in the grimdark future. And that's just what they often do to fellow humans. Sentient, non-human civilians, even if not hostile, usually just get instantly murdered or worked to death as slaves. So Games Workshop had to take a different approach with their AAA game. For the sake of broad appeal, they had to gracefully sideline the unspeakable evil and cruelty of the Imperium. You're not committing atrocities, genocides, and other war crimes. Instead, you're fighting an endless horde of Tyranids, insectoid space alien predators, which threaten to overwhelm everything. In contrast to the bugs in the Starship Troopers movie, Tyranids are not the victims of aggression. Their singular goal is to devour absolutely everything. They are a force of nature, basically, and there is nothing morally wrong with killing them.
But there is morally wrong with killing Eldar, or Dark Eldar, or Tau, or other humans, so that is not masked. It just happens to not be the setting, the sit rep of what this game presents. That is all. That is all. They're not trying to hide it. Just the idea of this game is this. Because people love bombastic action. That's all. But they will also love deeper things, as proven again by Spec Ops The Line. And other games, Telltale games, for example. People love the controversies, they love the drama that it creates.
The other enemy faction appearing in Space Marine 2 are the Forces of Chaos, who are just evil. Once again, nothing wrong with killing them. So your character...
Yo, you didn't just go there. Chaos is as diverse as the rest of Warhammer. It's not just a bunch of bad guys. Sometimes they are misled, sometimes they don't want anything to do with like any chaos gods, they just want to be left alone. Sometimes, you can do anything. Listen, you can do a lot of things with all of the factions of 40k. All of them are rich and diverse. Imagination is the limit in when you crafting stories in the universe of 40k. That's what's nice about it.
Titus of the Ultramarines is doing the good thing, really. He's a protagonist. He's also a brainwashed space Nazi psychopath, prepared to commit even the most heinous atrocities without a hint of doubt, should his masters command him. But let's not portray that, because that would be a downer for the average player. Therefore, in Space Marine 2, Titus is mostly portrayed as a selfless war hero instead. And I know that there is a bit more nuance to the story and the character, especially in light of the previous game, but that unfortunately doesn't matter. That's stuff for lore wonks, not your average player who might not even have played the previous game. The nuance is lost on them, and because of this, due to the satire taking a backseat, we have lunatics.
Well, then your problem is with basically the players? Okay.
Space Nazis made to look like heroes, tirelessly fighting against a tidal wave of freaks that threaten to destroy their glorious civilization. Which is exactly how, say, white nationalists think of themselves, isn't it? The brave champions protecting white civilization from an onslaught of swarthy subhumans who would destroy all they've built. And since the video games have an overwhelming...
Yeah, I think there are differences between what this guy is saying and trying to compare that are so wild that, like, at this point I can say in video games you can kill people. Therefore, video games are all fascist, and basically if you don't want to go into political ideologies, then all games are designed to spawn serial murderers and psychopaths and maniacs of all kinds, which only Batman could save us from. And we have had this discussion years ago, decades ago, and we all saw that that is not the case. So why are we arguing this point again with Space Marine 2? 40k also spawned dozens, if not hundreds of other games, movies, novels, and other media. Yeah, of course. Of course it did.
Overwhelming cultural influence compared to the books or the tabletop, the game's portrayal of Warhammer 40k becomes dominant in popular culture. Sort of like how the average person thinks of Superman as an unfeeling alien god. That's because those god-awful Snyder movies depicted him as such. Meanwhile, in the comics, he's this cool and friendly guy. I believe Cosmonaut Variety Hour put it best, and I'm paraphrasing, in the movies, Clark Kent is the mask worn by Superman, but in reality, Superman is the mask worn by Clark Kent. But due to the movie's overwhelming cultural influence over the comics, movie Superman becomes the cultural standard. Same with Warhammer 40k. The ultra-popular games will be the ones dictating the IP's public perception.
No, it's the opposite. A lot of people who don't know about 40k immediately assume that, like, all of humanity is basically space Nazis, and that's it. So no, they don't think that they're the cool guys. But they do think, and that there is a difference between that their armor and weapons look fucking cool, and it does feel fucking fantastic playing Space Marine 2. That's what they think, really. But if you introduce someone into 40k with, let's say, even the most objective and neutral standpoint, where they will discuss Space Marines, their first reaction is, oh, well, basically they are fucking space fascists, aren't they? And this is exactly the problem. This is exactly the problem, and this video is perpetuating that. Also, from what I've seen, Space Marine actually brought a lot of people into the lore of the setting. Yeah, of course it did. I was about to say that, like, this is just a vanilla experience meant to be the gateway into 40k, because, yeah, you want to bring people into your franchise, because, you know, that makes money. So, you know, give them something easy to swallow. But it's not like they hide the lore. They're not like, guys, we're gonna launch Space Marine, We're going for something new. Sweep everything under the rug, guys. Like, delist all the videos and everything. Come on, dude. Come on, dude.
Not the niche books or the tabletop game. Unsurprisingly, the far-right began co-opting Warhammer 40k already a few years ago, God Emperor Trump being the most obvious example. Also God Emperor Putin, go figure. Now, far-right fans of Warhammer don't actually play the tabletop game, so you won't be meeting them in real life. Online though...
False. Unfortunately, there are quite a few elements of those particularly nasty ideologies mingling with normal populace who's just trying to enjoy a hobby. It's a problem. But it's not a problem that starts from 40k being fascist. It's a problem that starts from humans being fascists and then appropriating 40k because they are fucking idiots. And so, yeah, what can you do? From that point on, it just becomes a self-feeding cycle, It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, if you will. And so, yeah, what can you do? Also, you can't blame 40k for people taking like the imagery of it and sticking Putin or Trump in the face of the emperor. I mean, you can do, it's like, it's as childish as like, I don't fucking know. It's childish, dude. You can't judge the whole of 40k just because people appropriated some of it, dubious people, might I say, This is like demonizing the lore.
Warhammer 40k communities are often literal cancer, with people unironically parroting the fascist propaganda of the Imperium. Burn the heretics, kill the mutants, purge the unclean. It is better to die for the Emperor rather than to live for yourself. An open mind is like a fortress with its gates unbarred and unguarded. Kill lots of Xenos and got coin.
Are you really gonna bring these extreme examples? I mean, listen. I will say this, and with that I think I'm done with the video because I can see where it's going. First, what Neris is saying is that it's a bit of an issue where anything that gets used by deplorable people will immediately be attributed to the material itself, therefore let them claim my base jokes. Yeah, of course. And again, this is also in part, and this is again like a very healthy criticism, this is also in part of the lack of any perspective other than the Space Marines perspective, other than the Imperium's perspective, which is a shame. I dare say almost treat anything touched by them as if it was touched by chaos. Yeah, exactly. But now you're trash talking chaos, I don't like that.
For the Emperor. Here's this image depicting an Imperium guardsman blowing himself up with an Eldari, basically a space elf, titled The Emperor Protects, with 1.9 thousand likes. The soldier is glad to die for the Emperor and believes that he saved him by letting him die in war. He's been brainwashed that hard. And the comments next to the image are of a similar vein. Approved. When I'm gone, I'll meet the God Emperor, but you, Xeno scum, the only god you'll meet is the Dark God, or whatever that is. Cadia stands for Cadia. Cadia is a fortress world most famous for doing the opposite of standing, by the way. There are also common image replies, most of which call for murdering someone, usually the post-author, or non-humans in general, called Xenos. Not just the evil, aggressive ones. No, literally everyone, including sentient Xenos and their civilians, who would be otherwise neutral or even friendly. Just kill them all. I've also seen plenty of Warhammer memes about interracial cuckoldry, which is something far-right people online are absolutely obsessed with. Don't look it up, trust me. Now, let's stop here for a moment. Am I not taking this a bit too seriously, pointing at obvious memes and jokes below posts and pretending they're serious? I do realize these memes and replies are jokes, but often they also aren't. Now, hold on, what the hell do I mean by that? How can one thing be two opposite things at the same time? I personally call such memes and jokes Schrödinger's shitpost. They are both a joke and not a joke at the same time. The meme exists in an ideological superposition until some...
And that's why you need some kind of filters, right? Because at that point, like, there comes a point where even the most well-meaning kind of message can be interpreted as something harmful if you are like over-filtering and all that. But if you're under-filtering, then yeah, you might watch Starship Troopers and be like, oh, this fucking thing wants me to be a fucking Nazi. Let me be a Nazi. It's so cool. Go back to the open the command console and slash respec and add some intelligence. Trust me. If like you're either of the two extremes, you just need a reroll, dude. You just need a reroll. There's nothing wrong with the material, you just need a reroll.
Someone engages with it. So suppose someone posts a far-right adjacent meme like this, the Kekistani flag, which is a recolored Nazi Wehrmacht.
Okay, yeah, we're going way too far at this point. I'm feeling like... This is interesting. Let me see this.
And that far-right people should fuck off from the hobby, basically.
So, there are no good people in the Warhammer 40k universe. None. Yeah, it's very ambiguous. Especially not the Imperium of Man. It's numberless legions of soldiers, zealots, bludgeon their way across the galaxy, delivering death to anyone, anything that doesn't adhere to the blinker view of purity. Debatable. Almost every man and woman toils in misery either in a battlefield where survival is measured in hours or in the countless manufactoriums of hive slums that fuel the Imperial war machine. All of this in slavish service to the living corpse god, whose commandments are the best only half remembered, twisted by time and the fallibility of humanity. Yeah. It's the grimmest dark. The Imperium of Man stands as a cautionary tale, oh, thank you, of what could happen should the very worst of humanity's lust for power and extreme unyielding xenophonia set in. Like so many aspects, the Imperium of Man is satirical. No, I would disagree. It's not satirical, it's a cautionary tale. There is very little satire, unless we're talking settings like Caiaphas Cain, for example, and such. And also all this is like literally contradicted by the existence of various settings within the 40k where it's not really that bad. That is the world of the creators. Yeah, I suppose it is. But experience shows that even they don't have a complete grasp of all the material out there, even though it is canon material. So yeah. I mean, let's take for example, what is his name? Like that channel, Major Kill, has covered this with actual canon sources, where he does prove that legitimately it is not that grimdark. So, you know, there is that. So let's go on. Because that is like literal canon, right? So even though it says it's the grimmest dark, yes, on the front lines, during the wars that happen, when the Space Marines land, yeah, that shit gets really fucked up. Yeah, of course. Or in stories where they are centered around like hive cities where you see, you know, you're meant to see the poverty and all that, but there are also other stories, like for example Necromunda and, you know, all that shit where basically you're not even bothered by any religious undertones. There is no emperor, there's no this, no that. It's just like mercenaries pulling out, you know, one-upping each other and vying for territory and all that shit. Like, again, there are countless stories. There are countless stories of every aspect, and this is canon. And even though this is literally official word, it is actually incorrect. It is contradicted by, again, official sources, which is why, for example, Lutin, a very large like 40k creator, content creator, does cover this. Like the narration is completely unreliable, very limited. Oftentimes we don't have first person accounts. We have she heard, he heard. You know, there is many reasons why this exists, you know, even to the point of where the narrator is actually someone who does want in canon to spread propaganda, for example, in canon, like in universe. It's meta. It's too meta, you know. So you can't really quantify it and say, oh yeah, in reality this is it. But if it's that, how can you have worlds that are basically pleasure planets? How can you have worlds where they don't even know who the emperor is? They don't even care. And they'll never be involved in any like incursion. And even in those worlds there are interesting stories to tell. You know? You can have stories about Imperial Guard regiments that they themselves are so fucking so far removed from the setting, from the core of the setting, where they're fighting their own little war, their own little epic struggle, which in the large scope of things is nothing. It's nothing. It's a speck. Because exactly there are untold billions of people and untold billions of planets, and that is just the human side. There is also the Eldar, there is also the Dark Eldar, all the other factions. Anyway.
So that's nice. But at the same time, Games Workshop is commissioning video games that neglect the satire in favor of a broader appeal, where the hero, who belongs to a literal superior race,
Don't even start me on the fact that Games Workshop doesn't have a move. They're not allowed to make a move. If they make a move to state A, then people from the side of B are gonna rip them to shreds. And if they say B, side from A is gonna rip them to shreds. And if they don't say C, then side C is gonna rip them to shreds. And they're gonna rip each other to shreds. It's crazy. You can't, it's the literal epitome of you can't please everyone, so they just left it open to interpretation. And that's it. And yeah, death of the author just comes into it again.
selflessly protects his civilization from the marauding hordes of freaks and degenerates. And this is seen by far-right people who, in their own imaginations, are heroes who belong to a superior race, selflessly protecting their civilization from the marauding hordes of freaks and degenerates. And so they identify with Warhammer 40k. They are drawn to Warhammer 40k content. They co-opt the aesthetics of Warhammer 40k. No matter how many statements Games Workshop makes, no matter how much they insist on 40k being satire, as long as the ultra-popular games make the Imperium look cool and badass, righteous even, the far-right will inevitably stay in its orbit and try to co-opt.
Sounds like your problem is with the far right, which it should be. Congratulations on that, that's healthy. But it's not with the game.
This is why Warhammer 40k, in my opinion, is doomed to always have far-right hanger-ons, unless they take the lore into a different direction. And I'm not quite sure how to do that while also preserving the grimdark setting, which is one of the main appeals of the IP. I do have some ideas here though. I think what would help is getting more left-leaning people into the hobby. Also, Games Workshop could add more diversity to the Imperium just to make the Chuds angry. Female Space Marines? Hell yeah. Female Adeptus Custodes? Naturally. Adopt us Custodes. Also, add more skin colors. The ensuing outrage will basically be free advertising.
Yeah, we discussed all that, no worries. And now, as I promised, let's watch Spec Ops: The Line, that one scene, and the ending. Give me a sec.
I'm on it.
Alright, let's watch it, shall we?
I'd say that's the gate.
Adams, take care of the lookout.
I'm on it. Sweet dreams, bitch.
All right, Lugo, what are we up against?
An army? Give or take?
No shit.
How are we getting through this? This might help.
Fine, set it up.
You're fucking kidding, right? That's white phosphorus.
Yeah, I know what it is.
You've seen what this shit does. You know we
We might
can't
not have
use
a choice, Lugo.
There's always a choice.
No, there's really not.
You ain't Walker. We'll fire.
Okay, prepare to fire.
That in order?
Yeah, it is.
Fine. Launching camera.
There! Stop it! We got it, Truth!
Camera online, sir.
Okay, targeting online. You ready?
Whenever you are.
Burn him.
You need to hit those RPGs!
RPG's neutralized. Burn him.
Take out those fighters!
Fire on my target.
Order.
Fire on my target.
Preparing to fire.
Snipers, fire.
Reloading.
Burn him.
Loading mortar.
A lot of soldiers by the Hummers!
Preparing to fire.
Humvee's destroyed. What else we got? Fire.
Stand by.
Burn him.
Preparing to fire.
Another Hummer!
Target in sight. Hummer disabled.
No one's moving. It's over.
He's right, Walker.
Okay. We're done. Let's get down there. Want to reach that gate before reinforcements arrive. Stop talking.
Means the smoke is toxic. Your mouth shut. Yeah.
Let's just keep moving.
Please, help!
Walker, come on, man.
There's nothing we can do. Come on. He's already dead.
Why?
You brought this on yourself.
We were helping.
What? Oh no.
Are those civilians?
Where'd they come from? There's no camp here.
They took him from the nest.
That hotel back at the storm wall? No, those can't be the civvies that got kidnapped. It's not possible.
Yeah, it is. That's why Gould stormed this place. He didn't want the gate.
He was trying to rescue his people. This is your fault, goddammit! Stop right there, Hugo. But it is! He wouldn't listen! He didn't have a choice! He turned us into fucking killers! That's enough, Sergeant! No! I told you so! No!
We need to keep moving.
What?
Reinforcements will be here any second. We need to keep moving.
But Walker, you're not even...
I'm gonna make these bastards pay for what they've done. Now, are you with me or not?
I'm standing right here! Come on! Secure the building! Shoot me, goddammit! Fucking shoot me!
This is your last chance, Walker. Surrender, or my men will cut you down.
Don't you dare! Well, fuck you then! I didn't come this far to surrender!
It's the only way inside that tower.
The fuck's sake! Give it up! The mission's over! We failed!
Not while I'm still breathing.
Fine! Then keep breathing! Run, motherfucker! Damn it, Walker! Run!
I'm sorry, Walker. But you knew it would end this way. Your friends dead. The world on fire. And you alone. You're a failure. Finally, something we have in common.
Squadron, get up!
Captain Walker, we're all that's left of the damn 33rd. We surrender, sir. Dubai is yours.
Where is Conrad?
Where he's always been. Upstairs, waiting for you.
Well done, Walker. You've done what the storm could not. Destroyed the damn 33rd. Do you feel like a hero yet? Please, come in. Now that you're here, I want to ask you a question. What did you think when you arrived in Dubai? When you'd seen what I had done? Did you think it the work of a madman?
Yeah. I thought you'd lost your goddamn mind. Or I hope that's what happened.
Oh, yes. That would have made things easier. But I wasn't that lucky.
You sure about that?
I assure you, I'm as sane as you are, Captain.
No matter how hard I tried, I never could escape the reality of what happened here. That was my downfall. There, finished. I hope you like it.
What the hell is going on?
Your eyes are opening for the first time. It hurts, doesn't it? Go on. What do you think?
You did this.
No, you did. Your orders killed 47 innocent people. Someone has to pay for your crimes, Walker. Who's it going to be?
John? Is that you?
You tell me.
I'm done playing games, John.
I assure you, this is no game. It seems that reports of my survival have been greatly exaggerated.
This isn't possible.
Oh, I assure you, it is.
How?
Not how. Why? You were never meant to come here.
We have our orders. Leave the city, radio command from outside the storm wall. They send in the cavalry, we go home.
What happened here was out of my control.
Was it? None of this would have happened if you just stopped. But on you marched. And for what?
We tried to save you.
You're no savior. Your talents lie elsewhere.
This is your fault, goddammit!
Stop right there, Lugo.
He wouldn't listen!
We didn't have a choice!
He turned us into fucking killers!
This isn't my fault.
It takes a strong man to deny what's right in front of him. And if the truth is undeniable, you create your own.
What the hell happened?
I don't know, he just stopped moving.
Walker, snap out of it!
I get it. We have to choose.
The truth, Walker, is that you're here because you wanted to feel like something you are not. A hero.
Lugo! You left me to die!
I'm here because you can't accept what you've done. It broke you.
Colonel? Colonel, please.
What's going on, Walker?
It's Conrad. He did it. All of it.
You needed someone to blame, so you cast it on me. You're a dead man. I know the truth is hard to hear, Walker, but it's time. You're all that's left, and we can't live this lie forever. I'm going to count to 5, then I'm pulling the trigger.
You're not real. This is all in my head.
Are you sure? Maybe it's in mine. 1.
No. Everything. All this. It was your fault.
That's what you believe, then shoot me. 2.
I didn't mean to hurt anybody.
No one ever does, Walker. 3. 4. It takes a strong man to deny what's in front of him.
Stronger than you were.
Whatever you say, Walker. No matter what happens next, don't be too hard on yourself. Even now, for all you've done, you can still go home. Lucky you.
What now, sir?
Huh?
The men are asking. What do we do now?
We complete our mission.
And what mission would that be, sir?
Just get me a goddamn radio. This is Captain Martin Walker, requesting immediate evacuation of Dubai. Survivors. One too many.
Commander, this is Falcon 1. I think we found him. Captain Walker.
He's armed!
It's okay. Hold your fire.
I don't understand. What's he doing? Look at his eyes. Something's not right.
Captain Walker, we are here to help. But first, I need you to lay down your weapon.
He's not complying.
He's shell-shocked. Give him a second. Just hand me your weapon, Captain. We're here to take you home.
Can he even hear you?
Quiet! Captain?
It's over. Time to go home.
You know, Captain, we drove through this whole city to find you. We saw things. You don't mind me asking, what was it like? How'd you survive all this?
Who said I did?
Yeah, so, you know, point made, I guess. And there's a reason why this game is beloved, and like these scenes are iconic for gaming. And I think then that they could do something very similar with 40k if they wanted, but anyway, that was the point. And with that, I think that my discussion on the 40k takes is kind of over. For better or worse, you know, and I hope you enjoyed my rantings about it. And I think that it was necessary to also show Spec Ops: The Line, because, you know, it's a line we should all remember exists, and we shouldn't cross it. And so, yeah. They have about 2 hours right now. Yeah, we can do a 2-hour stream of Baldur's Gate. So with that, I will leave you, and I will switch over to Baldur's Gate, and then I'll be with you in like 5 minutes, okay? Because I don't like merging streams like that, as it helps me keep my archive clean and tidy on YouTube. So yeah, I'll see you in a bit if you're staying for Baldur's Gate. And again, I hope you had fun, and thank you for being here for my little examination of like the 40k problem, okay? And yeah, I'll see you for Baldur's in like for a couple of hours of Baldur's in like 5 minutes. Let's see how that goes. Until then, go get some coffee or something, or you know, if you're leaving, have fun, have a great evening. And again, thank you for watching. It was really fun talking about that shit, and it was really fun, you know, remembering Spec Ops: The Line, and it still hits. It still fucking hits. I'm gonna tell you that. It still hits. I think it's gonna be relevant forever. Maybe especially these times. Anyway, right. So.